What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into the latest Gators Online Podcast, coming to you from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. I'm joined to my right by Nick Del Torre. I'm Zach Abolverdi. Hope everyone has had a good week, and it's no dull moment in Gator Nation.
Yep, never a dull moment. Shout out to Dave. He kind of took that from us. We said that, like on the beat. Never a dull moment.
That's a Robbie Andrews saying.
Well, that's a nice way of saying what former beat writer Robbie Andrews used to say. But yeah, there's never a dull moment covering Florida. The beat writers joke with Florida and LSU beat writers joke like, what is the more chaotic beat to cover? And we kind of go back and forth. Obviously, they had plenty of scandals, and I think they took the cake for a little while. But this week shows that the covering Florida is. There's a reason why I got all this gray in my beard.
I'm doing all right, but it's there. When I sit next to you and I look better. It's there though. It's coming.
I'm in like the transition phase. I'm trying to get to Anderson Cooper when it's just white. I just need like white hair like Santa Claus.
As my dad calls it, Scandinavian blonde.
Yeah. I just call it wisdom.
Yes, well.
It's just wisdom.
We learned a lot of wisdom this week, and some things happening on a lot of fronts: recruiting, NIL, roster, transfer portal. We have a game to preview and also to recap. We've got a visit with Corey Bender from Gators Online to make sense of all the recruiting stuff that's happened in the last week. And Nick and I have several things that we need to talk about, but that won't include last Saturday's game against Georgia, because I don't think on this great Thursday evening, especially for the folks that are going to listen to this on Friday, they want to hear much about that game, Nick.
No, they are who we thought they were. The game happened. It was what was expected.
They put up a fight like they always do.
You know how far you have to go, and it's not a one-year fix. It's a multi-year fix, and I don't want to hear, like, look what Josh Heupel's doing. Like, they're probably going to catch those hands on Saturday.
It's also not their first year.
It's also not their first year. It's their second year, and you're going to see part of what we're talking about today is the transfer portal, and Florida's going to need to be aggressive in the transfer portal because I think there's going to be a lot of roster attrition. As you get some guys who aren't happy about playing time or scheme or this or that. We thought it was going to happen in the spring. It didn't, and I think you're going to see it happen after year one. And that's not an indictment on Billy or the program. That's what college football is now. There will be 5,000 players in the transfer portal.
I will say I think it's a credit to Billy and his program, because I think there were probably a lot of guys that were looking to leave or thinking about leaving or leaning towards leaving. Billy showed up in the first offseason. These guys got parking. These guys got better food. These guys got Gator made. And they're like, you know what? Might stick around and see how this first year goes. Now
and then they didn't get reps, and now they're out.
Yeah, and then now they've gone to the season. They've had struggles. Guys are upset about whatever it is that they prioritize. And this happens during transition years with every program, especially one that the state that Florida's in. But before we get into that, I guess, Nick, we should probably start with where the week started at.
Yep.
Which was some breaking news from Gators Online and myself, yours truly. Had to stand in the paint there for a good half hour.
Trey Dean came after you.
Trey Dean tried to come after twice. He gave me one tweet and a delete, and then he tweeted at me again and deleted it. And I think, it wasn't the only one that questioned whether Brenton Cox had really been dismissed midseason by this staff. And we found out from Billy about 30 minutes after I reported it that was indeed what happened. And obviously, anybody that's known me and followed me, I would not put something out there like that without having it confirmed as a done deal. So, and as Billy said, it was time for them to move on. This was not a singular incident, but a accumulation of things. You obviously don't want to see this happen for any guy and for any team, because this is just not a good situation for everyone involved. Obviously, you got Brenton trying to go pro next year. This is certainly going to hurt his draft stock. But Billy said, he's a lot of things he wanted to keep in house, including whether, he was trying to send a message with this. From what I was told, this was a tough decision that he arrived at, but one that he felt like he had to make. And regardless of whether or not he was trying to send a message, I think it sends a strong one.
And I think the accumulation of things with Brenton Cox, a lot of fans have accused him of being a me first guy, not a team guy. I think Billy thought about making this move with Brenton even
in preseason camp.
In preseason camp. And to Billy's credit, is like, okay, well, this kid, he understood that we're going to get Brenton Cox for 1 year. He wanted to leave for the NFL last year, just didn't get the grade that he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Billy was like, okay, give him another chance. If we kick him off the team before the season, that's not going to help. It's going to tank or hurt his draft stock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was give him a chance, give him some more rope, give him some more leash, and see what he does with it. And then things just kept happening, kept stacking. The Florida players like to say they kept stacking days. Brenton Cox kept stacking grievances to the point where you get dismissed from the team. And to me, his announcement saying that he was shocked by it, I'm like, I don't know how you're shocked by it.
Yeah, and he also wrote that sometimes his competitiveness, is that what he said, gets
competitive nature,
spirit, or gets misconstrued. But I don't want to get into all the things that we know about what happened. That's not our place to discuss that stuff. But just know that as Billy said, he thinks that it's going to be healthy for the team, and I agree. Just based off the things that Nick and I have learned, I definitely think that there's even a chance that it could do some good at the jack linebacker spot, just giving some other guys some opportunities. I think Antoine Powell has played really well when he's been on the field, and now he takes over as the starter. And the Gators move forward. They've got a lot of great talent also coming in at that edge spot. And we didn't discuss this with Corey, but TJ Searcy came out on Wednesday and announced that he's shutting down his recruitment. And this is, when he committed to Florida, he was a top 50 overall prospect from On3. Currently, he's a top 100 prospect, but number one Tennessee in the college football playoff rankings,
the only ranking that matters,
yes, was pushing very hard to flip Searcy. So the fact that the Gators got him, to shut it down, he's going to come in and be added to that spot where Brent was at. And they got a lot of options, currently right now at that spot. But I think Powell is going to take over. But Brenton's not the only changes happening within the program. There was 2 defensive backs from IMG Academy that generated a lot of discussion this week, Nick. I'll let you take it away. I did my part, you do yours.
Yeah, there's a lot of the Florida market is interesting because you've got a lot of reporters like us that have been around for a while. You've got a lot of student reporters, and Florida's got a great journalism school, as Professor Abolverdi is a part of. So there's a lot of people that want
fan sites,
blogs, podcasts. There's just a lot of people that have
Facebook pages.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have an interest in covering Florida. And I don't want to call them out. So just a young reporter got excited and tweeted something, which then creates work for us at 11 o'clock on
work for you. I was at a basketball tryout for my son.
Work for me at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. So the original report came out and it said Kamari Wilson had cleaned out his locker. And
I didn't see the tweets because they've been deleted
and was gone. So I call and I get 2 people really quick to be like, no, that's wrong. But the report initially said cleaned out his locker, and then it was followed up with a tweet that said, we'll see if it's true. I'm like, I reached out to the person privately. I was like, hey, if you have to say, we'll see if it's true, then you don't have a report. As a reporter, you don't have a report. If you're like, well, the coin's still in the air, so we'll see if it lands on heads or tails. You don't have a report. There's just like levels to things you have to, there's things you have to do and get your ducks in a row and know, like Zach said, if I'm reporting something, it's solid. Like I know it, and
it's absolutely 100% confirmed.
I'm standing by it. So
Florida's not going to come out 2 minutes after my tweet and text me, "You're wrong."
Right. Yeah. So the reporter had the initials right. Just
and in the high school, right?
The initials in
and
the high
position.
School. Initials, high school position were right, but the person was wrong. It was actually Kamar Wilcoxon, who had cleaned out his locker, not Kamari Wilson. And Wilcoxon's been here for 3 years. This is his third season, third position coach in 3 years. He's on that Andre DeBose path. So Wilcoxon was a member of the 2021 class, reclassified, came in 2020, played in 2 games in 2020, tore his ACL, missed the 21 season, came back, and only played in 2 games this year, Kentucky and Eastern Washington. He wasn't happy with his role as, like, listen, winning cures a lot of things. So if you're not happy with your role on Tennessee and you're number 1 in the country, like, hey, okay, I'm just gonna ride this and maybe we'll win a national championship. If you're not happy with your role and you're 4-4, it's, well, I could be helping. I could be doing this. Why am I not playing? We suck. I should be playing on this bad team. So that's why you're getting guys leaving. Marco Ortiz hit the portal. Josh Braun hit the portal. Brenton Cox being told to hit the road. And now
hit the road, Jack.
Yeah, hit the road, Jack. That would have been good. That would have been a good. Good story. I missed that.
If we can we talk about how we broke that news?
Yeah. Well, here, let me finish Kamar. So Kamar will hit the transfer portal. The new rules, which literally were put in like in August, you can't enter the transfer portal. They have designated times to enter now. So Marco Ortiz is in the portal because he already graduated. So if you are graduated, you can enter the portal whenever as a graduate transfer. If not, December 5th, you're going to see a flood of disgruntled players hitting the portal. And Florida will have more than just the 2 that are the 3
just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, there's roster remanagement would be an understatement.
But fortunately for you, Nick, your car battery died Monday.
Yeah, I call Zach. My car battery's dead. I'm like, I'm calling AAA. I need a new battery. I don't know if they're gonna be here in time for me to get there, so I might cover this one from home.
This is like at 11 o'clock.
At 11 o'clock, and we're scheduled to meet with Billy at 11:40, which turned out to be like 12:10.
Yeah, and then I get a text message on the way to the presser at 11:15. They let Cox go. I immediately call Nick. Can you describe the urgency in which
Zach calls me and goes, Brenton Cox has been dismissed. You need to stay at home and write the story. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It's like, the car's still dead. Can't go anywhere. So,
and from the time that I left High Springs and got to UF campus, the news had been tweeted and broken. And Nick
you had, like we just said.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's steps. You got to confirm it.
First, I probably made like 4 phone calls on the highway on 75 confirming this news. And then Nick's, my man's writing a story for me, published it in my name. What a guy. What a teammate. And that gets broken, tweeted, and his story gets published before I even get to Gainesville. And it's quite the Monday morning.
Yeah, quite the Monday. And then you asked too. I'm sitting there at home. I'm watching it on YouTube.
I want to address that too, and then we'll address the hot mic situation.
I'm watching it on YouTube, and I'm like Zach gets the first question. So he asked his question. He asked to follow up on Brenton, and Billy said, I was interested when Billy was like, I'm glad you asked about that. I'm like,
I appreciate it.
I'm like, what? Wow, that's weird.
Yeah, and for folks that were listening, some people were like, why didn't you lead with that? Why didn't you ask that as your first question? It's, because I'm not there to just focus on negative news, and I did come with the intention of asking about Jimbo, and I just felt like leading off with that was a little much.
Well, there's also too, and shout out to Dave Waters, because Dave got the first question on the Zoom for Mullen when he asked about recruiting. And that gave us we'll talk about recruiting during recruiting season. A lot of, when you're a reporter at a press conference like that and you're sharing a room you know that if you have a question that might make someone angry, and you didn't know if Billy,
I know what his reaction was going to be.
You did or did not?
I didn't know what his reaction was going to be. I definitely knew what the answer was going to be, but what he would say about it.
But if you ask the first question and you piss off the person being interviewed
right out of the gate,
you've set the entire interview, which could be 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. You've set it off on the wrong foot. And now you've potentially ruined any answer you were going to get, a good answer or a bad answer, an informative answer. You've changed the whole mood and the possibility of the press conference. So you could have done that even with your second question. Even the second question, if Billy Napier was unhappy that the information had left the building, it could have ruined the next 15 questions because he could have been in a bad mood. And clearly, shout out to Dave, because I think it was a legitimate question that Dave asked. It ruined the rest of that press conference. And that's when we were over Zoom. You can't really change the order of how questions are just being called on. But if you ask a question that makes the interviewee mad, you could ruin the entire press conference.
Yeah, and fortunately, the interviewee did not get too mad at Mark Long.
No.
For the hot mic situation. That Gator Nation took off and ran with that. Definitely not a situation that I think Florida wanted to have, with that live stream going. But wow, it just added to an even more to a wild Monday.
Yeah, and jeez, yeah, quite a Monday. And
I also don't think, to your point, man, like Billy addressed this Wednesday, but don't freak out. Don't, put out the panic button. When more of these start coming out, certainly once December 4th hits, there's going to be a 45-day window where players can enter the transfer portal starting the day after the college football playoff is announced. So there's already players that know that they're entering the portal. There's probably some players that know where they're going, but they can't do it officially until December 5th. So there's going to be, a lot of roster attrition here, but there's also going to be some additions as well. The Gators lost 6 transfers last January, and they added 5, and they added some of their best players, Montrell Johnson, Osiris Torrance.
Osiris Torrance is your best player.
Yeah.
Just a little kid from Louisiana.
Well, he's not little.
Didn't even know what football was, had no interest in playing football, just wanted to go fishing.
If they had NCAA football, he'd be like 98 overall.
Yeah.
And obviously it was great to have him back for the Georgia game. So, but we'll switch gears here. We're going to jump to this break and preview this A&M game. But the
sky's not falling. This is college football. You're going to get players every year to enter the portal. Florida will have double-digit players enter the portal.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. And
I will say too, like I kind of alluded to this, but like based on what I've been told, like Billy came in as like he wasn't just like trying to push people out of the door, and even guys that have had issues or might have had justification for dismissing them, like to your example with Brenton, like he's tried to keep some guys and work with them. So, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's just not a good fit, or sometimes guys like the program and like the staff, and they just want to go for a better playing opportunity. But I think in this new era with the waiver where guys can go and not have to sit out a year, and the ability to have access to the portal, there's just going to be a lot more than you typically see after a coaching change. So,
and let's be honest, NIL is not just a recruiting thing; it's a transfer portal thing.
Yep.
And as Billy Napier has said, essentially,
ask Daryl Jackson.
Essentially, you've got free agency, and everyone is a free agent until they've used their one, get out of transfer free card.
Yeah.
So you can see guys jump in the portal, get some offers, come back to their collective at their school and be like, hey, this is what the market is now valuing me at. Can you match that? If not, we're out of here. And you're going to see that.
Hadn't stopped Brew McCoy.
No. My guy's been on a tour. Texas, USC, Tennessee. Hey.
Well, we're going to be on a tour to Texas this weekend. Nick and I headed to College Station. My first time there. We're looking forward to the trip, looking forward to the matchup. We're going to jump to this first break. When we come back on the other side, we'll recap that game, give our predictions before talking some UF recruiting with Corey Bender.
Coming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back into the Gators Online Podcast. Zach and Nick here, and it is time to turn our attention to this weekend's game in College Station between the Aggies and the Gators. Another meeting between these two teams since A&M joined the league. The Gators have now gone to College Station. This will be their third time, and Georgia's not gone once.
Georgia's been playing football since the 1800s. Never been to College Station. Florida's third trip. Wonder how the schedule is made.
Probably will go a fourth time before Eugene makes it there. But this is Florida's problem.
Florida and Texas A&M will be in the same like pod. Yep, every other year you're going to College Station.
I mean, ever since look, Johnny Manziel had to take that L.
Yeah, I think Will Muschamp was beating his chest by that 2012 season and was then exposed in 13. I think if Florida would have caught A&M in November instead of in their first game, because they had a hurricane cancel their actual warm up, their first game. I think that would have been different. It would have gone differently.
You know, I saw Will on Saturday.
Oh,
ran into him on the sideline. Nice little handshake. He realized I wasn't Nick Del Torre.
yeah. I don't know if Will would have extended his hand for me.
Yeah, Will was good with me.
I gave Will the business in 2013.
And I guess things are good between Jimbo and Billy, another coach that he has history with, albeit very minimal history, but an interesting past between the two nonetheless, because Jimbo gave him a job at Florida State, hired him, and Billy was there about 6 weeks. And I think how it played out, he had been at Alabama and was there obviously as an analyst. And then he had joined Jim McElwain at Colorado State, got an offer to obviously join Florida State, accepted that, was part of the national championship staff that they had. But then Nick Saban gave him a call and said, well, why don't you come and join this national championship staff? And Billy hightailed it to Tuscaloosa. But, another guy that he's got history with, and another prospect or guy that they've competed for with prospects. You look at Evan Stewart. He was a huge Florida target. He's leading the Aggies this season. They got a lot of the freshmen from that class that have, been playing a lot this year, especially on the front seven. They got a freshman quarterback that it looks like will probably get the start over Hayes King on Saturday. But let's be honest. There's also been some trouble in College Station this season between, the suspensions, the losses. It's not been a good year for Jimbo, especially coming off the heels of that number one ranked recruiting class that they paid for.
Let's listen. Listen to me here. I've said for a long time, the best job in the world is fired football coach. Jimbo is not having a bad year. If they fire Jimbo, they got to write him an $85 million check.
Amazing.
So is he having a bad year? Like in the wins and loss column?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Wins and loss column, bad year. Is Jimbo Fisher having a bad year? No, he's fine. He'll be all right.
Mullen got 12. 85. Woo!
If they Florida could build a whole nother Hefner complex for cheaper than A&M could fire Jimbo Fisher.
When you put it in that perspective.
They could just put another one on top of it.
So what we're saying is Jimbo's not going anywhere.
Hey, listen, the price of gas has been very expensive. They've recorded record profits in Q3, so maybe the money's there. Maybe the Texas oil money's there. I kid. They're not going to fire Jimbo. They might force him to give up play calling duties because there's some clauses in his contract where, like, for insubordination. So if Ross Bjork comes and says, like, yo, dog, you gotta hire someone to call plays, and he says no, then you get into like a legal battle of, well, there was insubordination and we don't have to pay him his money, because if he's fired for cause, he gets $0. So there's a wide gap between the 85 and 0.
It's going to be interesting because it's definitely they in Miami are really the
locked in, guaranteed contracts.
But they are, those two programs in particular, and I think Tennessee's obviously getting into that arena. We saw the message Thursday from their AD just going full-fledged and supporting their collective. But it's going to be interesting to see with some of these programs, a little bit of an experiment going on, I guess you could call it, just with the roster management, the NIL management, the guys coming in with these huge deals that are probably, right out of the gate as freshmen making more than guys that have been on the team for multiple years, and
just more than some coaches.
Yeah. And then just that whole dynamic, not to say that, other programs aren't going through it, but at A&M and in Miami, it seems like it's a heightened issue. And it's all gravy if you're winning games and everybody's happy with their playing time and things are going well, but that's not the case in College Station. So,
well, you might get into a situation now where you've got, big money boosters who have put into collectives, and the collectives have paid a guy, and now you're starting a junior who's underperforming on a losing team, and it's, hey man, we're writing $15,000 checks monthly to this kid. Why isn't he playing? And you might get into a situation where you're getting pressure as a coach to play guys because, kind of like the NFL. Like if the NFL drafts a kid in the first round, it's like, hey man, he's playing.
We're invested in him.
We're invested in him. He's making more than the 6th-year guy who's on a minimum deal. That happens in baseball too. It's like, hey, the guy that's been in the minors for 15 years might stay in the minors because he's making, $200,000, and the kid we just gave a $5 million signing bonus to, who plays the same position, hey, he's got to go. He's got to go up.
Sidebar: who's winning the World Series?
I got the Phillies. Not an Astros guy. Not going to make any Texas A&M fans listen to this. They're big Astros people in College Station.
We should go to the game.
Our host, it's Saturday. Oh, they will have a game 6 because it's 2-2.
Yeah.
Game 5 tonight. I got the Phillies winning. The Phillies should be in their powder blue uniforms tonight. One of the best uniforms in baseball.
My son's rooting for the Phillies as well. He was very disappointed in the combined no-hitter on Wednesday night, second ever in World Series history. So, but anyways, you're talking about the investment that A&M's made, and certainly a lot of investment in their defensive coordinator that they stole from Ole Miss, former Florida assistant and interim coach DJ Durkin. And as Lane Kiffin said, we tend to get outbid by that school.
Even for our DC?
Even for coaching hires. And look, it's been an interesting year for that defense. Mention how much youth they have, the guys like Walter Nolan and some of the other big prospects that they signed. Really elite in one category and not so great in the other. They have the nation's number 7 passing defense, number 1 in the SEC, only allowing 170 yards per game. But on the flip side, they rank second to last in the SEC, 120th in the country in their rushing defense, giving up 205 a game. So they defend really well in the passing game, but they cannot stop the run, and that's what we would expect the Gators lean on in this matchup.
RTDB. Run the dang ball.
Print the shirt.
Run the dang ball.
And the Gators, weren't able to do it against A&M, held to a season-low 100 yards. Or excuse me, Georgia held to a season-low 100 yards, only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. They came into the game leading the nation at 6.4. So,
wow, I think you're playing a different run defense this week.
You are definitely playing, a team that you should be able to run the ball against, and you're going on the road too, so you're dealing with that whole environment there of the 12th man, and but it's going to be 11 a.m. kick, so
yeah,
not going to be as crazy. Yeah, and
tough scene.
I can't imagine if Dan Mullen was still the coach, because if he had to go there, he might blow a gasket with the full A&M crowd.
Oh man, 19 million people.
Well, the Gators could not get the W last time they were there. 41-38 loss. Nick, how we see this playing out Saturday?
I think you need to run the ball. It's interesting. This is a weird game because Florida, on paper, Texas A&M has had trouble with a mobile quarterback. Does Florida's quarterback want to be mobile? They have trouble.
Does he get hurt on the first play of the game?
They don't. It's like when Cam Newton was in the NFL. Like they don't call the game the same way for Anthony Richardson, the way they call it for Tom Brady, or the way they call it for a smaller quarterback. It's like, to take it to the NBA, like Shaq would get hit and they wouldn't call a foul and they'd be like, yo, you're gigantic. We're not calling that.
That elbow did nothing.
Yeah, we're not calling that fouls. But like if Anthony Richardson wasn't 6'4", 240, some of the hits he takes, you'd see a flag fly up. So I think it's led to him getting dinged up and then him thinking, well, I can't get hurt. And
he's trying to avoid the hits now.
So I think Anthony Richardson should be able to run. I think Florida should be able to run. Will they? Do they try to throw the ball against a good pass defense?
Yeah. Number 7 in the country.
Shouldn't. Should just lean on the run. You've got a great offensive line. You run the ball really well. Georgia's an outlier. Georgia's really good. That defense was like every time I'm watching the game, I'm like, these linebackers fly to the ball.
I was on the field and it was crazy.
There's a lane and you're like, that's over. Okay. thought they had thought they had something there, and then all of a sudden there were 2 guys in that lane. So that's a really good run defense for Georgia. I think that 100 yards is an outlier, and Florida will get back to running the ball effectively at A&M.
But look, I mean, you could be out.
It makes a lot of sense, and like this is kind of just like how things play out for Florida. Like, of course, Jimbo Fisher has been shuffling quarterbacks, and it hasn't worked. And then they figure it out the week before Florida comes. Right before Florida's coming, like, oh, hey, we found the answer to the test. Found the answer key. So that makes sense to me.
But look,
A&M's lost 4 in a row. I don't know the last time Texas A&M as a program has lost 5 in a row, and like history like that shouldn't factor into into the pick, but it might factor in the
well. And to your point about leaning on the run, you might not have Justin Shorter, and you don't have Keon Zipper.
Yep,
that was another thing that we didn't mention the first segments of.
By the
wacky
way,
week.
Keon's not playing.
After it was posted on his official Facebook page that he was out for the season, only for it to be deleted, and Billy said it's wild. The whole situation was wild. It's not a long-term injury, but he's not going to play Saturday. So you're down your starting tight end, and you could be down what has been your best receiver. Would be nice to see Ricky Pearsall get a little bit more involved, but I
he's
think
got like 16 catches this year.
Well, and just my man got a jet sweep or reverse and took it to the house and didn't touch it again.
Nope, but Xavier Henderson's still working on his 400th mile of pre-snap motion this year. Mile 400 coming soon, my man. We're gonna get you some water, some new running shoes.
I tell you what, it helped him on that 78-yard touchdown catch, though. He was gone. So obviously the Gators could use some plays like that. It's crazy the amount of 70-plus yard touchdowns that Anthony Richardson's had in his 2 short year career. Could use some more, but obviously just I think the consistency. He's gone 2 games now without any turnovers, so that's been a positive. Definitely can't have that happen in College Station, but there was a lot that went on with the Gators last week against Georgia. In the locker room at halftime, that third quarter, a lot of emotions, a lot of things that took place. Billy thinks that everything that transpired in terms of some shakeups is going to be healthy for the team. I like the Gators in this matchup, Nick. I know that I'm weary about picking them because of the quarterback situation with A&M. It seems like they figured out that at the right time.
Of course.
But I just feel like Florida's got their backs against the wall. A lot of, negativity this week because of everything that happened. I think people count them out. And I just think they're going to come out with an edge on the road against a A&M team that is talented, but has just not been very good. These are 2 struggling football teams. I think Florida finds a way to get it done. And as he said, dominates with that RTDB mentality.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth. This was a Sharpie loss for me preseason.
It was for me too because I thought A&M was not going to be the team it is.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thought A&M was going to be the team it is. And I've gone back and forth, and this is probably the first time I've even thought about making a pick. I'll go with Florida, and if I had to our RPM predictions, if I had to put like a percentage of confidence in the pick, I'll go with like 51% confident.
Or 50.5.
50.1. 50,
so it's a toss-up.
I just don't know what Florida team's going to show up.
If it's that third quarter team against Georgia, man, I think the Gators get the dub.
Yeah, I still think Jimbo has like a good X's nose and a good game plan in him. And if Jimbo Fisher's on his game, I think he can out-scheme Patrick Toney and the guys that Florida has available on defense.
Yeah, and obviously, you're going to be without one of your top players in Brenton Cox, so we'll see what type of adjustments are made there. And no Devin Moore as well. He's kind of already been out of the rotation, but now officially done with his season-ending shoulder surgery. So we'll see how things shake out. I think I might have influenced Nick a little bit with the pick, but we'll find. I mean, I kind of was hoping we'd be at odds, so one of us can be wrong and one of us can be right. But
I'll pick A&M then.
Just like that? I mean, you were at 50.1%, so it didn't take much to bring you on the other side.
So I'll pick A&M with the same 50.1% confidence. I don't have confidence in Florida's defense.
Well, listen, you're keeping track of the season predictions, so when our Gators Online game day predictions come out Friday,
I mean, I have to make a different pick than you because I'm trailing you in the picks.
At some point, we got to.
So at some point, I have to
put yourself out there.
I have to put myself out there. And I've picked Florida in every game that I've been wrong, except Utah. You picked Tennessee. I picked Florida. That was a loss for me. I think that's the only game we've differed on. My game back.
We'll see. Either I'm gonna take a 2-game lead, or you're gonna even things up, Nicholas.
All right.
I'm gonna see the 12th man for the first time. Looking forward to that. And
my second trip, stadium. The stadium is gigantic.
Yep, I'm gonna be on the field. I'm gonna be up in the press box. Looking forward to getting on the road. Kind of inspired by Nicholas as he's trying to hit the treks of all the SEC stadiums. Get there one day.
Hopefully, gotta get to Sanford Stadium somehow.
I think after the way that went down on a Saturday, you're going to have even more people that are proponents of that. So, but appreciate. Obviously, we're going to jump to this break right here and get Corey Bender on to talk some UF recruiting and see everything that's happened in the last week and wants to come with the signing day approaching. We'll jump back and come back on the other side with Corey.
Football is back. There isn't a better way to enjoy watching your favorite team than by playing daily fantasy sports with our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the simplest form of real money daily fantasy sports and pits you against the numbers. Whether you're a fantasy sports nut or a casual fan looking to add some excitement to the games, Prize Picks is the perfect game for you. It's the best way to have action on the game in states like Alabama, Florida, Texas, Georgia, Kentucky, and over 70% of the United States. Prize Picks is currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. You simply select 2 to 5 players and predict if they will go more or less than their Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. Download the Prize Picks app or visit prizepicks.com and sign in using the code GATORS to get an instant 100% bonus up to $100 on your first deposit. So if you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100 back. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. That's free money. Don't forget that Prize Picks app or prizepicks.com and the code GATORS to claim your bonus today and take your viewing of your team to the next level this season.
Welcome back into the Gators Online Podcast. We are now joined by Corey Bender from Gators Online to talk some UF recruiting. Corey, thank you for joining us, my friend. How's it going?
Well, I'm good, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Getting ready to hit the road and go to Texas. I know that the coaches are planning to be there, not just for the A&M game, but they have their sights set on one of their top targets for the 2024 class. And And honestly, Corey, let's start there. Obviously, DJ Lagway's been a name that Florida fans have familiarized themselves with lately, and he's a guy that's planning to come back to the Swamp soon, and also planning to see the coaches.
Yeah, so with Lagway, he's arguably the top target at quarterback for the 2024 cycle. As it stands today, Javaar Jaluk, he'll be the one in attendance for the game. I mean, with the staff on the road, I wouldn't count on Billy Napier being there as well. I know most of the staff is kind of laying low this week and getting ready to do a lot of game prep. But with Lagway being such a prized target, it wouldn't shock me if Jaluk's not the only one at that game. So we'll see how it all plays out. I know with his recruitment, he's planning on making a decision in early next year, take his official visits in the spring, and then the goal is to make a commitment shortly thereafter. That way he can kind of be the leader of the class. He kind of wants to get the ball rolling for whatever school he's at and try to construct an elite recruiting class. And right now you got to feel good about where Florida stands. I think with Florida, you have Clemson, LSU, Florida. USC is getting a visit this weekend, so you really can't count them out either. So he's been putting in the rounds all fall, but I know Chad Simmons, On3's director of recruiting, he's favoring Florida for him right now. And it's one of those, it's kind of like what we mentioned with Permani McClain. You have that one prospect in each class that has a lot of emotion poured into the recruitment. I feel like Lagway's kind of taking that lead for the 2024 class, where the fan base is just so eager to get him on board.
And obviously, you mentioned Cormani McClain, like you said, Lagway's their top target for 24. McClain had been their top target for 23. And it's interesting. Another one of their top targets for 24, Desmond Ricks, is now reclassified, and now he becomes one of the staff's top targets for 23, especially after McClain's decision. Corey, we're obviously, about a week removed from it now. But, now that you've had some time to think about it, just, you've seen a lot of crazy recruitments, Corey. You've covered recruiting for a long time. Just how much of a shocker was that, I think, to, the college football recruiting world? Obviously, all the analysts across the country, including yourself, nobody had him going to Miami. But nonetheless, the Hurricanes pull off another upset, and now the Gators kind of set their sights on Desmond Ricks.
Yeah, it's one of those recruitments where, I've seen a lot of different ones go in weird directions with no one particular. Like Avante Williams a few years ago, everyone had him pegged to Florida, and then he committed to Miami, and I know everyone was just shocked, speechless. And that one is almost, it's obviously on a whole different level, especially with how highly ranked Cormani McClain was. But yeah, it was one of those instances when I was refreshing Twitter, and I saw Hayes Fawcett with On3 put a Miami edit, and I thought it was maybe like a fake page, or because people do that nowadays. People just put like his profile picture, and they'll copy his tweet and kind of format it like how he would tweet it. But then I saw the blue check next to his name, and I was like, wow, this is really happening. Like he really committed to Miami. And yeah, it's one of those ones where, props to Miami, honestly, for keeping it under wraps and really they came in late. I think even from what I was told, Miami was surprised earlier in the week when Permani told them he was going there. So I know a lot of us are, and Nick, you put in a prediction too, so I'm going to throw you under the bus as well. So we're all going to, so we all got a lot of slack for that. But at the end of the day, it's kind of what makes recruiting fun. It kind of makes it interesting. You never really know. People always talk about who can beat the crystal ball or the recruiting prediction machine. And a lot of kids don't. It usually kind of gets out where you kind of have an idea where a kid's going. And this is one of those ones I think Florida fans will never forget. I'm sure we'll be talking about this for years to come. And
good.
Props to Miami, man. They got it done. They're winning a lot of these battles on the recruiting trail. And I think with Florida, though, they still have a top 10 class. I know. Every recruiting article we put out this week, you kind of have he's going to Miami, like a lot of sarcasm. But Miami's only one spot ahead of Florida in the rankings. Florida still has a great class. So if you're a Florida fan, you're definitely still got to be excited, with what's to come in the future here.
And what are your thoughts on Ricks real quick, too, before Nick jumps in?
Yeah, I think with Ricks, it was kind of a rumor that he was going to reclassify to the 2023 class for a while. Then it kind of went away. The chatter went away for a little bit. But he was always one of the older kids in that 2024 class. It was always that natural transition, I think, for him. And he's one of those guys where Napier told him, he said, when I offered you this early, would I offer you if you were a 2023 prospect? And he said, yes, I would. So, the talent was always there in addition to him being older for the class. So, and it shows he's still a 5-star prospect, number 2 corner behind Cormani McClain. So it shows he's a elite prospect. So it shouldn't be too much of an adjustment for him. And as far as top schools, I mean, Florida's definitely in the short list. I kind of view it as Alabama and LSU in that first tier, and then Florida and Miami in the second tier. That's kind of what it's rumored as right now. But, you can't really rule out Miami, obviously. I mean, we said that with Permani, they were like on the outside looking in, and even Florida. I mean, obviously, a big part of that, is the coaching staff. He's been up there about 4 times this year. I mean, the relationships in Gainesville are really strong, but I think Alabama and LSU, they're kind of probably ahead of the bunch right now, and he's still deciding if he wants to enroll. He's not going to enroll early, but he's still deciding if he wants to sign in December or January or February. So we'll see kind of how long. He might take these 2 visits to LSU and Alabama and realize, hey, I already kind of know where I want to go and sign in December. But the good thing for Florida is they have an official visit locked in for early December, and they're going to be rolling out the red carpet for that visit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, how would you even early enroll? Like, you're already graduating high school early, but like graduating high school a year and a half early. Like, people were asking, like, "Oh, is he an early enrollee?" I'm like, "Bro, he was supposed to graduate next year." So yeah, he is. He is early enrolling by an entire year, but not in time for spring practice this year.
Yeah, like I said, I think him signing early wouldn't be a surprise, but from what he told Chad and a few people Chad spoke to within his camp, him enrolling early, that's kind of off the table. I mean, something could change, you never know, but we'll see how that all kind of plays out. And with him obviously moving up a class, you got to make sure you have the credits involved to really do that. So, I mean, his whole life right now is a whirlwind. I can't even imagine, what that kid's really going through with recruiting and just in the classroom making that adjustment.
Yeah, I want to go back to Lagway a little bit because that's the kind of my quarterback of the class that I really like. Just from your opinion, your perspective, Billy Napier, obviously they have a quarterback for this current class and Marcus Stokes. Just how important is it to get somebody like Lagway, a quarterback who's going to be the centerpiece, the focal point of your class, and then someone who, like you just mentioned, wants to be involved in recruiting and wants to, hey, I want to commit early, be the centerpiece, and then I want to help build a class around me. How important is that for Florida to get someone like that? I mean, the last time you really had that was maybe like Trey Burton, and Trey Burton kind of kept that class together from Urban to Muschamp.
Yeah, I think obviously quarterback, just that position regardless is super important. And when you look at Florida's roster behind Anthony Richardson, there's a lot of uncertainty there. So, I mean, just looking at Florida's current situation, it's important. And then Marcus Stokes, I'm a fan of, but I don't view him as like never know, but immediate impact type guy. I think he needs a little bit of work before kind of being in the mix for a starting role at Florida. But I think when you factor Florida's situation, but also his personality, the way he leads and the type of talent he is, you kind of view him as that total package type recruit that Florida really needs to cash in on and really reel in. And that's why I kind of said at the top of the call why he's that recruit with so much emotion forward into his recruitment, because you never know with Anthony Richardson. Obviously, I know some people still view him as a draft pick even this year. I think he comes back, but just behind him, there's a lot of uncertainty at quarterback. And I think Lagway is one of those guys, one of the few in the class who could probably play fairly early. I feel like his skill set translates to college pretty well. He's really good, really good football IQ, gets the ball up quickly, very athletic. He's that true dual threat, but definitely is a pass-first guy, though, can really extend the field. So I think with Florida, it's just there's obviously additional quarterbacks on the board, like Jake Berklinger from Georgia, who's a kid that speaks with Florida quite a bit, but there's no doubt who the top target is, and that's DJ Lagway. So I think people have asked me on the board too, like, what's Florida have to do with him going forward? I would just say keep doing what you're doing. I feel like the staff is really making an impression on him and his family. They're on board. They know what they're impressed with Napier, how they managed Anthony Richardson too. I know obviously there's been ups and downs throughout the season, but overall though, it's been. I think right now Florida's in a good spot, but it's definitely very close at the top of this board.
Hey, especially for a kid from out of state, has been to campus twice now.
No, so it's been I think 3 or 4 times he's been to campus. So he's been there for 2 games, and then he came 4. Yeah, then he came for Friday Night Lights, and then he came early in the first half of the year. So he's been there 4 times. And I mean, that's impressive. A lot of these schools have got him on campus. A&M's the one school I feel like you always have to keep mentioning with him. It's not far from home, and as much drama as there is in College Station, I think when you look at a guy like Lagway, he might view it as, hey, I think I'm the missing piece. There's a lot of talent on the roster, but I feel like if I'm there, if I'm playing, I can turn around the offense and I can really kind of get them back to the expectations of where they should be with the amount of talent they have on the roster. So then LSU feels good about them. I think Alabama, they just got Julian Sayin from California. I think he's a 5-star. You kind of have to kind of rule them out because that's their quarterback of the class now. USC, I think distance. Can't say. I mean, never know if you get like that, but I don't see him going to LA. It's just kind of a far trek for him and his family. So I think Clemson, Florida, and LSU are kind of the schools you kind of really have to monitor the most. And A&M, obviously, those are the four.
Now you mentioned A&M, obviously the opponent for the Gators this weekend, but an opponent on the recruiting trail as well when you consider where they are in the NIL space. And I kind of want to circle back to that, Corey, because we heard from Billy on Wednesday night about how NIL has impacted recruiting from his perspective. How do you feel like it's impacted it from yours? Just covering recruiting as long as you have, I've had, I've heard, should I say, several people say in this past week that there's some prospects in this cycle who, if Billy Napier and his staff were recruiting them 10 years ago, pre-NIL era, they probably would be committed to Florida right now. And, the outcome of their decision is something else because of the NIL factor, with schools like Miami, schools like Texas A&M, just how do you feel like that's kind of changed the landscape of things and how we're seeing it play out?
No, 100%, man. I mean, like you said, the Jaden Rashadas and the Kalani McLeans, I mean, you never know for certain because there's conversations behind closed doors that obviously we're not aware of. There might be some other things that factor in. But you kind of look at the way how recruiting, has kind of played out for a lot of these kids, 100%. I mean, even making predictions now for the elite kids, I think for the middle tier, middle 4 stars and lower, it's not as difficult. It's the same old recruiting. And they always say follow the business. That's the most important thing. And obviously, you interview kids.
Follow the bag now, schools. Corey. Stop the visits. Follow the bag.
Follow the bag now.
Follow the bag, not the visits.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing now. It's like, you see, even the running back, I know his name's slipping my mind, but last night, the kid out of Louisiana who signed with Miami.
Trevante Citizen.
Yeah, I know this way, running backs. Yes, with Citizen, Florida was kind of considered the favorite down the home stretch. And then, it was one of those National Signing Days announcements where it's like, hey, Miami's picking up ground. And next thing you know, an NIL deal, really kind of sealed the deal from what we were told. And Jaden Rashada, obviously with him, there's whispers out there that his recruitment isn't completely done yet. There's been rumors about him possibly getting back to Gainesville for another visit.
Ooh.
But nothing's for certain though. I mean, it just depends. That's like kind of the chatter behind the scenes that we kind of came across. But
the word on the street, as they say.
Whispers in the back alley.
Word on the street. So it's just we'll see how it plays out though. But I think I was talking to Chad about this. When it comes to the elite kids, you really have to be careful with kind of putting in a prediction, and especially early, because you see a lot of these schools, a lot of these deals, proposed deals, kind of get made. It's on the leading days where you see a lot of the drama and you see a lot of changing, and stuff is changing on both sides.
Well, and I want to add to that, Corey. You mentioned the deals, and again, these are all. None of this is out there, right? None of this is, at least until since the Maryland defensive line transfer. Miami has stopped, announcing when they sign somebody to a deal, but we know that's what's happening, right? If a top tier recruiter transfer pledges to Miami, there's an NIL deal that they agree to. Now, from what I've been told by somebody very close to these recruitments, every time since Trevante Citizen that the Gators have gone head to head with Miami, that said prospect who has picked the Canes accepted or agreed to, or whatever the case may be, a deal with Life Wallet without giving Florida, or more specifically the Gator Collective, any chance to counter, as we would say. And that's been consistent with every single kid, Rashada, McLean, Citizen, and that's just a whole different dynamic because it's not. I think there's a narrative out there that Florida's collective isn't willing to step up when those situations happen or get into a quote bidding war. Miami's created situations where a war doesn't even take place. They kind of put an offer on the table, and you either take it or if you walk out of this room, it's gone. And it's just changed the way the whole game is played.
100%. And it's just like it just when it comes, I think the Maryland transfer, Daryl Johnson's name, and he was another one where Florida felt really good about down the home stretch, and it's fun. You see him, and he publicly announced the NIL about how he signed with with Life Wallet or whatever it may be.
That was public.
I just he just put it out there. He's like, whatever. Here, this is a situation. This is what I'm going with. But it's just I think with a lot of this, I mean, even before NIL, the whispers of like certain prospects and get taken care of pretty well on the recruiting trail. And for a lot of these top-notch kids, these top-rate kids, they always say it's a business decision. There really is a business decision now, when it comes to NIL. And that's the thing I kind of expressed to like Florida fans that are just kind of down in the dumps about the plane thing. I mean, there's no coincidence. It's not a coincidence that every person across every network, On3, 247, Rivals, everyone had Florida. That's not a coincidence. I mean, people can say like sources are bad or people didn't have the right info. Everyone across the board had the same stuff, and even Florida was surprised, like speechless. I was told like the day of when he announced for Miami, one of the coaching staff member in Florida was like literally speechless, like no one really saw it coming.
Well, actually, I was told more than there was some speech involved, but it won't be repeated on this pod. But definitely was a shocker.
Alabama's staff was surprised.
Yeah. I mean, to your point.
Alabama's staff thought, all right, well, we lost to Florida. I guess we'll see him eventually.
T-Rob had conceded.
T-Rob had tipped his hat to Corey Ramey. He's like, hey, good for you, man. Good job.
And even the Miami sites, if you went to all the Miami sites across, independent ones within the major networks, no one really had the content ready. And like I talked to a few of them, and they were like, wait, what? And I talked to one of them is an independent site. And one of my buddies was kind of like busy doing stuff. And he's like, wait, what do you mean? Like everyone was caught off guard by the whole thing. So it's just, it makes us do our job that much more carefully, I think, going forward. It was kind of like a learning lesson, even though I still stand by it. If it wasn't for NIL, I think McClain would be going to Florida and everything was just kind of a whirlwind down the home stretch. But it makes you a little bit, when it comes to these highly ranked kids, you really got to like do your due diligence and really do your research, because that's where it gets iffy, those top 5-star kids, because with the deals that are, like rumored to be, like how much is involved with it. I mean, it's a big business decision and a change could happen at any point.
And make no mistake about it. Like, I feel like Gator fans then attack the Gator Collective when they hear that. Like, if it wasn't for NIL, he'd be going to Florida. It's like he had a very nice offer for when he got to Florida from the Gator Collective. Like, hey, this is what our contract would look like when you get here. So it's not like Florida's not willing to pay or
counter.
Yeah,
like it's not like if you make
Papa Ruiz just like a mafia, like a mob member. Like, yo, here's the money. If you want it,
you got 20 minutes.
That's it. That's it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, like you said, obviously we're not going to discuss like figures, but like from both you guys know too, like a lot of these rumored deals were very enticing on the Florida side. So it's a lot of these schools are like a lot of these major schools are being competitive in that scene. When it comes to NIL, you just have some schools that are just really going the extra mile with it. And honestly, man, it's like you can't even. You guys probably saw my tweet. I put this thing on DJ Wadley this week, and every person I had like probably 100 comments were like, "He's going to Miami." I was like, "Dude, have some pride." Like end of the day, it's like
pride.
It's just like you look like all you're doing is giving ammunition to Miami fans because you're bothered by it. Like like right now, you took a loss. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's not like Miami's ranked number 2 in the rankings and Florida's 15th. I mean, they were just ahead of them a week ago. So I just, at the end of the day, man, you still got to be optimistic. I mean, this is Napier's first full recruiting class. A lot of talent's going to be on the way, and there's still a lot of talent on the board still. So you still, and then not even to mention the transfer portal, if you look at Florida's best players this year, like Montrell Johnson, obviously Osiris Torrance, and then you have ETN, he was at Florida. I mean, that's one of Napier's recruits.
I mean, a
lot of their guys are playing well.
Yeah. Ricky Pearsall. I mean, they don't get him the ball at all, but
Pearsall,
is one of your best players.
Well, and you mentioned, the guys left for you as we wrap it up with you. We're almost a little over a month away from what Billy called National Signing Day. He's not calling it the early signing period. It's National Signing Day.
Yeah, it's really changed.
Now February is the late signing day. But we know that Desmond Ricks is going to be a top target. You mentioned the official visit in December. Who are, a handful of other names that Florida fans should be monitoring down the stretch?
And just to piggyback on that, I think the biggest gripe with Florida's class, because it is good, it's a top 10 class.
It's better than any class Mullenstein.
But you don't have that 5-star. You don't have a consensus top 50 player. Is there a way for Florida to get in on a 5-star, obviously a Ricks, or a consensus top 50 guy?
One of the teammates from Alabama.
There's a couple guys that we have top 50 that Rivals or 247 might not, or he's not top 50 on 3. But a consensus top 50. Is there an elite player that Florida can either flip or get into the mix this year?
Great question.
Yeah, obviously start with Ricks. Obviously it's going to be you have to look at Alabama and LSU as the leaders there right now, but it's still early. But Ricks is definitely, has Florida on the short list. It's a realistic. It's not a guy, I wouldn't call it a long shot, but I would still say there's room to go, room to improve in his recruitment. And then obviously you have the two teammates, James Smith and Kua Rusa up in Alabama. I still like the Crimson Tide for both of those guys. I had it as Auburn, Alabama, and Florida in the top 3, but with Auburn with no coach now, you could almost kind of flirt with the idea of saying Florida's in the top 2. And I think if someone told you that months ago, you probably would have laughed, because Florida was really ever talked about until they visited for Friday Night Lights that whole weekend. Those guys, I still think it's going to be tough to get those kids on board. Never say never. But I would say they're kind of right there with Alabama, but Crimson Tide definitely has to lead with them. Cedric Baxter's still out there. I would say FSU probably has a little bit more momentum right now, definitely, as far as the in-state schools. He took an official visit there, and he took an unofficial a few weeks before that. And a lot of people forget he was committed to FSU at one point as well. It was his dream school. It seems forever ago because he committed early on in high school, but he's still out there. And then as far those are kind of like your elite prospects, the first tier. Jordan Hall's out there, a D lineman, a top 50 kid in the country overall at Jacksonville. I still like Georgia there. I think they're going to be tough to beat. Alabama recently made a strong impression. But I think the most likely right now still, you have to put John Walker, the UCF commit, out of Osceola High School. He's visited Florida more than UCF this fall. From what I've been told, it's really about winning his whole family over. I know his parents are really comfortable with him staying closer to home. And with UCF likely going Power 5 in the foreseeable future, I think UCF sees him as a day one starter guy, and John Walker kind of views it as, hey, I can stay close to home but be in the Power 5. But we'll see how that plays out. Florida's right there. They have an official visit secured for early December. And those are Caden Jones is probably the last guy I'll touch on. He's a kid out of Louisiana, 6'7", about 285 pounds. Really looks the part, really physically imposing guy. Has some work to do, kind of like a long-term potential type guy. Probably going to redshirt and need some time to work with. But Florida and A&M are the top 2 for him. So we'll see how it all plays out. There's a few JUCO kids out there too, like Elijah Davis and Keyshawn Blackstock. Both are in the trenches. So we'll see how it all plays out, man. There's still the Florida's going to do most of their work in December, like you said. Have a few kids sign in February, maybe some JUCO kids. But I think overall, though, I think when this is all said and done, Florida will still have a top 10 recruiting class.
Yeah, and Billy said ahead of Cormani McLean's decision that the staff still had a lot of work to do before they reach the finish line. So, it's a top 10 class now. They've, met most of their needs. But as Nick said, now you want to try and put the cherry on top, as you would say. So, listen, Corey, we appreciate the time and appreciate the coverage as always. Make sure if you guys aren't following him and keeping up with his updates, you will stay locked to everything that's happening with Florida football recruiting. Nick and I will be back from College Station next week to let you guys know how that road trip went and preview the Gators' final home game against South Carolina, final recruiting weekend for the Gators in season. Corey will have a visitors list, so make sure you guys check out that. Corey, appreciate the time as always, my friend.
Yeah, thank you guys. Safe travels, College Station too.
Absolutely. We're going to see you guys next week once we get back, and Thursday from Springer's Gridiron Grill. For Nick Del Torre, I'm Zach Abolverdi.